The officer did not reach for his radio right away. He looked at Margaret first. Then at the key still stuck in my lock. Then at the guards blocking my driveway like they had been told to hold a line. The morning stayed quiet except for the soft hiss of wine through the pines. Margaret stepped forward, heels clicking on wood, voice sharp and certain. "Officer, that man is refusing lawful HOA access," she said, pointing at me like I had broken something sacred. The officer did not nod. He did not agree. He just watched. That was the first crack. Margaret did not notice it. She kept talking. Faster now. Listing violations. Making them sound official. "We have jurisdiction over this entire ridge," she added, lifting her chin. The word jurisdiction hung in the air longer than she expected. The officer's eyes shifted toward the camera above my porch. A small black dome. Barely noticeable unless you knew what it did. He followed the wire with his gaze. It ran clean along the beam. New install. Not decorative. Not cheap. Margaret turned, finally noticing where he was looking. "Security system," she said quickly. "Probably a legal installation." Her voice carried that same forced confidence. The kind that gets louder when it starts to slip. I set my mug down on the railing. Ceramic touched wood with a dull tap. The sound felt louder than it should have. The officer glanced at me. Brief. Measuring. "Sir," he said, calm, "can you confirm ownership of this property?" I did not answer right away. Not because I could not. Because timing matters. Margaret jumped in before I could speak. "He cannot," she snapped. "We have documents. Pending enforcement. He has been notified." She waved a folded paper like it carried weight. The wind caught the corner and flipped it once. No seal. No county stamp. Just HOA letterhead. The officer did not take it from her. He let it hang there. Another crack. Then the phone in her hand crackled again. Louder this time. Clearer. The dispatcher's voice cut through the air, steady and controlled. "Unit on scene, confirm situation. I am receiving conflicting access reports from gate control." Margaret froze for half a second. Just enough to show it. Gate control. She did not understand what that meant yet. The officer's radio buzzed softly at his shoulder, syncing with the call. He lifted it halfway, then lowered it again. He was listening. Really listening now. Margaret recovered fast. Too fast. "Ignore that," she said, waving the phone slightly like she could brush the voice away. "Our HOA manages the entry points here." She said it with certainty. With ownership. That was her second real mistake. The gate at the bottom of the ridge clicked once. A metallic sound carried up the slope. Then another vehicle slowed outside it. Engine idling. Waiting. The camera light above my porch blinked again. Recording everything. Margaret turned toward the road, annoyed now. Impatient. Things were not moving the way she expected. The officer shifted his stance. Subtle. Weight moving from one foot to the other. He was no longer just responding. He was assessing. The dispatcher's voice came through again, sharper this time. "Unit, hold position. Do not proceed with removal. Access authority is being verified." Margaret's smile faltered. Just for a breath. Then she forced it back. "They always overcomplicate things," she said, almost laughing. But her grip on the phone tightened. Her knuckles went pale. I watched the name flash across her screen when the call refreshed. She did not notice it yet. Not the name. Not the system she had just stepped into. But I did. And I knew exactly what was about to happen next. The name on her screen flickered for half a second before the glare took it away. She turned the phone slightly, shielding it with her hand, but it was too late. I had already seen the call routing header at the top. Not a local dispatcher tag. Not a county line. It was coming through the regional control network tied directly into the access system I installed 2 years ago. Margaret lifted the phone back to her ear, voice rising again, trying to regain control. "Yes, I am still here," she snapped. "The individual is refusing to comply." Her tone had sharpened, but there was a crack under it now. The officer heard it too. He did not interrupt. He just watched her talk herself deeper. The guards shifted near the driveway, boots grinding gravel, unsure now whether to hold their position or step back. The engine at the gate idled louder. Waiting. Everything was waiting. The dispatcher's voice came through again, clearer, firmer, cutting straight past Margaret's words. "Ma'am, confirm your authority to initiate access override on that property." Margaret blinked. Just once. Then she laughed. Short. Forced. "I am the HOA president," she said, slower now, like she was explaining something obvious. "We maintain community control over all residential structures in this sector." She leaned on the word control. That word landed wrong. You could feel it. The officer's posture shifted again. Slight tilt of the head. Listening for something else now. The wind picked up across the ridge, carrying the faint scent of hot engine oil from the car below. Margaret paced once across the porch, heel catching a loose board. It clicked under her weight. She did not notice. She was focused on the voice in her ear. "Ma'am," the dispatcher repeated, even calmer this time, "that location is flagged under restricted access infrastructure. Your credentials do not match override authorization." Silence hit the porch like a dropped weight. Margaret stopped moving. The guards froze. Even the officer held still for a second. Margaret's smile came back, but it was thinner now. Tighter. "That is incorrect," she said quickly. "We have master access keys issued for this development." She reached toward the lock, fingers brushing the key still jammed in place, like she needed to prove it was real. The metal did not move. The key did not turn. The officer glanced at it again. Then at me. I had not moved from the railing. Not a step. Not a word. Just watching. That silence pressed harder now. Margaret pulled her hand back from the lock, shaking it once like the cold metal had bitten her. "There must be an error in your system," she added, voice tightening. The dispatcher did not respond right away this time. A soft click came through the speaker. A line shift. A transfer. The kind that only happens when a call moves up a level. The officer's radio chirped in sync with it. He looked down at it, then back at Margaret. The tension on the porch shifted again. Not louder. Just heavier. Then a new voice came through the phone. Lower. Controlled. Familiar in a way that did not belong to Margaret. "This is control," the voice said. "Hold all enforcement action. Do not attempt entry." Margaret's grip tightened around the phone. Her knuckles turned pale again. "Excuse me," she said, sharp now. The officer straightened slightly. He recognized the tone. I did too. I had heard it across a kitchen table, late at night, going over access logs and call routing maps. Margaret took a step forward, trying to reclaim ground she no longer had. "I am reporting an active trespass," she insisted. The voice on the line did not rise. It did not argue. It just answered. And when it did, everything on that porch shifted at once. "Ma'am, you are not reporting a trespass," the voice said, calm and steady. "You are currently attempting unauthorized entry into a restricted property." The words landed clean. No hesitation. No room to argue. Margaret blinked again, slower this time. The officer's posture changed immediately. Shoulders squared. Attention locked. He was no longer observing. He was listening for instruction. Margaret let out a short breath, almost a laugh, but it did not carry confidence anymore. "That is not correct," she said, trying to keep her tone level. "This property falls under HOA oversight. We have documented authority." Her voice thinned at the edges. The wind picked up again, brushing her hair across her face. She did not move it away. She was focused on the voice. The voice did not rush. "Confirm your name," it said. Simple. Direct. Margaret hesitated. Half a second. Then she answered. "Margaret Whitmore. President of Ridgeview Estates HOA." She emphasized the title. Like it still meant something here. The officer glanced at me again. Brief. Then back to her. Waiting. Always waiting. The guards near the driveway shifted again. One of them lowered his stance slightly, like he was preparing to step back but had not decided yet. The engine down at the gate idled louder. Another vehicle had pulled up behind it. The line was growing. The system was holding. Margaret straightened her shoulders. Tried to recover ground. "Now I suggest you correct your records," she added, firmer this time. "We issued master access credentials for all properties within this sector." Her hand brushed the key again. Still stuck. Still useless. The voice on the line did not react to her demand. "Your credentials do not grant override authority," it replied. "Access attempts have been logged and flagged." The word flagged hung in the air. The officer's radio chirped again. He lifted it this time. Just enough to acknowledge. Not to speak. Not yet. Margaret's smile disappeared completely now. No mask left. Just tension. "Logged," she repeated. "Flagged by who?" The question came out sharper than she intended. The answer came without pause. "By control." The porch went still again. Even the wind seemed to drop for a second. Margaret looked around like she expected someone else to step forward. Someone to back her up. No one did. The older couple down by the turnout had not moved. They were watching now. Not curious anymore. Careful. The officer shifted his weight again, more firmly this time. Authority settling into place. "Ma'am," he said, finally stepping in, voice calm but firm, "I am going to need you to step away from the door." Margaret turned to him quickly. Too quickly. "Excuse me," she snapped. "You heard the call. This is my report." The officer did not raise his voice. He did not argue. "I heard the control line," he replied. "That takes priority." Another crack. Bigger this time. Margaret's hand tightened around her phone again. The screen lit her face from below. Pale. Sharp angles. Her control was slipping and she knew it. She just did not know why. The voice on the line spoke again. Slower now. Clearer. "Unit on scene, maintain position. Do not enforce removal. Property access is under protected management." Protected. That word settled heavier than the rest. The guards exchanged a quick glance. One of them took a small step back. Gravel shifted under his boot. Margaret heard it. She turned slightly, just enough to notice. Her eyes narrowed. She was losing them. One piece at a time. I had not moved. Not once. My hands rested on the railing. Still. Quiet. Watching everything align exactly where it needed to. Margaret turned back toward the phone, voice tightening again. "Then who exactly is issuing these instructions?" she demanded. This time, the answer came with a pause. A deliberate one. Like it mattered. Like it was meant to land. And when the voice finally spoke, it changed everything on that porch at once. Control authority assigned to Rebecca Cole, the voice said, steady and unmistakable. Primary system administrator for this access network. The words hit the porch like cold air. Margaret froze. Completely this time. The officer's eyes shifted to me, then back to her phone. The guards stopped moving altogether. Even the engine down at the gate seemed quieter. Margaret blinked twice, slower now, trying to process it. That is not possible, she said, but the edge was gone. She is not on any HOA registry. The voice did not react to her objection. She is not required to be, it replied. Clean. Final. Margaret's grip tightened around the phone again. Her thumb hovered over the screen like she might hang up, but she did not. She needed this to resolve. She just did not understand how it was resolving. The officer stepped half a pace forward. Not aggressive. Just present. Ma'am, I need you to step away from the door, he said again, more firmly this time. Margaret turned toward him, frustration rising fast now. You are taking instructions from an unknown party, she snapped. This is a private dispute. The officer did not flinch. This is no longer a private dispute, he replied. This is a controlled access site. That word again. Controlled. It landed harder this time. Margaret shook her head once, sharp, rejecting it. This entire ridge falls under our community management, she insisted, voice climbing again. We issued master keys. We maintain, the voice on the line cut her off. Calm. Precise. Your issued keys do not apply to that property. Silence followed. Heavy. Margaret looked at the key again. Still stuck. Still refusing her. The wind shifted across the porch, carrying the faint smell of dust and warm metal from the lock. Her hand moved toward it again, then stopped. Halfway. Something in her had started to understand. Not everything. Just enough. Down at the gate, another vehicle pulled up. Tires crunching gravel. Waiting. The camera light blinked again. Recording every second. Margaret's eyes flicked toward the road, then back to the phone. Then explain, she demanded, voice tighter now, who authorized this restriction? The answer did not come right away. A pause. Deliberate. Then the voice spoke again. Slower. Authorization was filed under private ownership and infrastructure control. Registered to Ethan Cole. My name settled into the air between us. Margaret turned to me sharply. Really looking this time. Not at my boots. Not at the cabin. At me. The officer did the same. Quick glance. Confirmation. The guards shifted again, uncertainty replacing posture. Margaret's mouth opened, then closed. No words came out. The system she thought she understood had just placed me at the center of it. Not below her. Not within her structure. Outside it. Above the piece she could touch. She took a step back from the door without realizing it. Just one. The wood creaked under her heel. The officer noticed. He did not say anything. He did not need to. The voice on the line continued, steady as before. All access attempts are logged and monitored. Unauthorized entry may trigger further action. Margaret swallowed. The confidence she walked in with was gone now. Replaced by something tighter. More careful. She glanced at the guards again. Neither of them met her eyes this time. The officer adjusted his stance, more settled now, like the situation had finally clarified. I stayed where I was. Quiet. Still. Watching the structure shift around her. Margaret lifted the phone again, voice lower now. "I want to speak to this Rebecca Cole," she said. "No anger this time. Just urgency. The kind that comes when control slips too far." The line stayed silent for a second. Then a faint click came through. And I knew exactly what she was about to hear next. The line clicked once, soft and clean, and then her voice came through. "This is Rebecca Cole," she said, calm, steady, the same tone I had heard across our kitchen table 100 times. Margaret stiffened. The officer did not move, but his attention locked in. Even the guards leaned slightly, listening. Rebecca did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "You requested confirmation of authority," she continued. "You are currently attempting entry into a privately controlled property under restricted access designation." Margaret opened her mouth to interrupt, but nothing came out. Rebecca kept speaking. "Your key is not recognized by this system. It never was." The words landed harder than anything before. Margaret's hand dropped slightly from the lock. The metal key scraped faintly as it shifted in place. Rebecca paused just long enough for it to sink in. Then she added, "Every access point on this ridge routes through my control panel. That includes the gate, the cameras, and this call." Margaret's eyes flicked toward the road again. The line of vehicles had grown. Waiting. Watching. The officer adjusted his stance, more certain now. Margaret found her voice again, but it came out tighter. "You cannot override HOA jurisdiction," she said, forcing the words through. Rebecca did not argue. "There is no override," she replied. "Your jurisdiction does not extend here." Silence followed. Heavy. Real. The kind that leaves no space to hide. Margaret swallowed. The confidence was gone now. Replaced by something smaller. "Then why is this property inside our mapped boundary?" she pushed, clinging to something that sounded official. Rebecca answered without hesitation. "Because your map is incomplete. Simple. Direct. Final." The officer glanced at me again. Not questioning now. Confirming. Margaret looked down at the phone like it might change in her hand. It did not. Rebecca continued, tone steady as ever. "You initiated an emergency call based on false access claims. That has been logged." The word logged came back again. Heavier now. Margaret's shoulders dropped just a fraction. Enough to notice. Enough to matter. The guards stepped back another inch. Gravel shifted under their boots. The structure around her was collapsing piece by piece. Rebecca did not stop. "I am advising you to step away from the door and release the access point. Immediately." The officer nodded once. Subtle. In agreement. Margaret did not argue this time. Not right away. She looked at the key again. Then at me. Really looking now. Seeing something she had missed before. The system was not just around the property. It was tied to it. And to me. She reached out slowly and pulled the key from the lock. The metal slid free with a dull scrape. The sound carried across the porch. Final. The officer took a small step forward. Not forceful. Just present. Reinforcing the shift. Margaret lowered her hand, the key resting useless in her palm. Rebecca's voice softened slightly, but the control did not change. "We can continue this through proper channels if you choose," she said. "But not like this." Margaret nodded once. Almost without realizing it. The fight had left her posture. Not gone. Just redirected. The line stayed open. Waiting for her next move. And for the first time since she stepped onto that porch, she did not have one ready. Margaret's fingers tightened around the useless key as she stepped back from the door, her heel catching the same loose board again, but this time she noticed. The sound echoed sharper. The officer moved slightly closer to her side, not aggressive, just closing distance, making the line clear. The guards near the driveway exchanged another look, then both stepped back in sync, their earlier posture gone. The structure had shifted completely. Margaret looked down at the key in her hand, then back at the lock like it had betrayed her. "This is not over," she said, but her voice did not carry the same force. Rebecca's voice came through the phone again, steady as before. "It is not over," she agreed, "but it will not continue here." The calm in her tone did more than any raised voice could. Margaret turned slightly, scanning the ridge, the gate, the line of waiting vehicles. People were watching now. Not whispering. Not guessing. Watching. The officer spoke again, measured and controlled. "Ma'am, I am going to ask you to clear the access point." No threat. Just instruction. Margaret hesitated. A long second. Then she took another step back, fully off the threshold. The porch boards stopped creaking under her weight. That space in front of the door felt different immediately. Clear. The wind moved through again, brushing past the doorway like it had been waiting for it. Margaret lowered her phone slightly, but she did not hang up. She could not. Not yet. "You set this up," she said, looking at me now, really looking. There was something new in her expression. Not anger. Not yet. Calculation. I did not answer. Silence again. It did its work. Rebecca spoke before Margaret could fill it. "No," she said, calm, precise. "We secured what was already ours. That landed deeper than anything else." Margaret's eyes narrowed slightly. She was trying to connect pieces now. The key. The lock. The gate. The call. The officer shifted his stance again, now fully aligned with the situation in front of him. No uncertainty left. The radio at his shoulder stayed quiet. That silence meant everything had already been decided. Margaret turned toward the guards. "Stand down," she said, quieter now. They did not hesitate. Both stepped back toward the gravel, clearing the driveway completely. The crunch under their boots sounded louder than before. Final. The line of cars at the gate remained still, but the tension there had eased. The system was holding exactly where it should. Rebecca's voice softened slightly, but the authority never dropped. "This call will be documented and forwarded," she said. "Any further action should go through proper review channels." Margaret nodded once, almost automatic. Her grip on the key loosened. It hung in her hand like something she no longer understood. The officer took a small step back now, giving space, signaling the shift from enforcement to resolution. Margaret looked at the door one more time. Then at me. There was a question there now. Not spoken. Not formed yet. Just present. She lifted the phone slightly again. "Then I will be requesting that review," she said, quieter than before. Rebecca did not respond immediately. A pause. Deliberate. Then a soft click came through the line. The kind that marks a transition, not an ending. And Margaret realized she had just stepped into something much bigger than she planned. Margaret lowered the phone slowly, but she did not end the call. Her eyes moved across the ridge again, slower this time, like she was seeing it for the first time. The gate. The cameras. The line of cars still waiting without a single horn. Everything was quiet, but it was not passive. It was controlled. The officer stepped back another half pace, giving her space, but his attention never left her hands. The key rested there, dull and useless, catching the morning light without meaning anything anymore. Margaret turned toward me again, her posture tighter, more contained. "You built this," she said, not asking now. Not accusing. Stating. I did not answer. The silence held again. It stretched longer this time. Rebecca's voice came back through the phone, softer but still precise. The system was filed under private infrastructure protection, she said. Your association was notified through standard channels. Margaret's jaw tightened. She knew what that meant. Not that she had read it. Not that she had understood it. But that it had existed. Somewhere in the paperwork she trusted without checking. The wind shifted again, brushing dust along the porch boards. Margaret glanced down at the key once more, then slipped it into her pocket without thinking. Like hiding it would restore something. It did not. The officer cleared his throat lightly. Not a warning. Just a signal. Ma'am, you are clear to step off the property, he said, calm and final. Margaret nodded once. Small. Controlled. She turned toward the steps, heels careful now, no longer striking the wood with authority. Each step down sounded measured. Deliberate. The guards followed without being told. Their earlier stance gone completely. Gravel shifted under their boots as they moved toward the side of the driveway. The line at the gate remained still, but one of the vehicles edged forward an inch, testing the space. The system did not open. Not yet. Margaret paused at the bottom of the steps and looked back up at the cabin. At the door. At me. There was something unfinished in her expression. Not anger. Not defeat. Recognition. She lifted the phone again, bringing it closer to her ear. I want a full report, she said, voice lower now, more controlled than before. Rebecca did not answer right away. Another pause. Intentional. Then, you will receive one, she said. Along with a record of this incident. Margaret nodded again. Slower this time. Accepting something she could not push through. The officer shifted his weight, relaxing just enough to show the situation had stabilized. The radio at his shoulder remained quiet. No escalation. No further instruction. Just resolution. Margaret turned toward the gate and started walking. The guards followed a step behind, no longer leading, no longer blocking anything. The gravel path stretched ahead of them, the waiting cars forming a silent line on either side. The morning sun had lifted higher now, casting long shadows across the ridge. The camera above the porch blinked once more. Recording the final movement. I stayed where I was, hands resting on the railing, watching the entire structure settle back into place. Rebecca's line stayed open for another second. Then another. Like she was confirming everything had cleared. Then a soft click came through. The call ended. The gate at the bottom of the ridge clicked again, metal shifting under controlled release. One of the cars rolled forward slowly. Not rushed. Not forced. Just allowed. And that was when Margaret stopped walking for a moment, just before reaching the road. Margaret stopped just before the gravel met the road, her hand tightening slightly at her side as the first car rolled past her through the gate. The metal bars moved with a controlled hum, smooth, precise, opening only as far as needed. Not for her. For them. She watched it happen, eyes narrowing just a fraction. The guards halted a step behind her, unsure whether to keep moving or wait. The officer remained near the porch, no longer involved, but still present enough to remind everyone how this had shifted. The morning had changed. It felt quieter, but heavier. Margaret turned her head slowly, looking back up toward the cabin. Toward the door she had tried to open. Toward me. I had not moved. Not once. The same position. The same stillness. It was not defiance. It was control. She saw it now. That was new. Her posture. Adjusted slightly. Not smaller. Just different. More careful. The second car rolled through the gate, tires crunching gravel, moving past her without slowing. No acknowledgement. No hesitation. The system did not react to her anymore. It did not need to. She exhaled once, steady, then reached into her pocket and pulled the key back out. She turned it in her fingers, studying it like it might explain something if she looked long enough. The brass caught the sunlight again. Dull. Ordinary. Not special. Not powerful. Just metal. She closed her hand around it and lowered it again. The guards shifted, one of them stepping slightly to the side to clear the path. No command given. No signal needed. Margaret took one step forward, then stopped again. Something held her there. Not fear. Not hesitation. Calculation. She glanced toward the gate controls mounted along the fence line. Small panel. Clean install. No HOA branding. No shared access. She had missed that detail before. She missed a lot of them. The officer turned slightly, his attention easing, but he still watched the space. Not her. The space itself. Making sure it stayed clear. The third vehicle rolled forward, slower this time, like the driver was aware of everything that had just happened. Watching her as they passed. Margaret did not look at them. She kept her eyes on the system instead. The ridge. The lines she thought she controlled. The lines she never actually touched. I picked up my mug again, the ceramic cool against my fingers now. The coffee had gone cold. I did not drink it. I just held it there, resting against the railing. Margaret turned back one last time. Fully this time. Her eyes met mine across the distance. There was no anger in them now. No authority. Just a clear, sharp understanding. She nodded once. Not to me. To herself. Like she had finally placed the last piece in a puzzle she did not know she was solving. Then she turned and walked the rest of the way to the road. The guards followed without a word. The gravel shifted under their steps, fading as they moved farther down the slope. The gate cycled again, opening and closing with that same controlled hum, letting the next car through. Everything returned to motion. Normal. Quiet. But not the same. The camera above the porch blinked once more. Recording the final seconds of an incident that was already moving beyond this ridge. I set the mug back down on the railing and watched the road clear. The wind carried through the trees again, steady, familiar, like nothing had happened at all. But something had. And Margaret knew it now, even if she did not know what came next.